Welcome to Construction Champions Podcast, where we are burning the house down and rebuilding it twice a week. I'm your host, Ron Nussbaum, and I am here to help you become the champion that you're meant to be. Along with our amazing guests along the way, we will provide you with the resources, the latest and greatest. You will sit down with disruptors in the construction industry. And my goal from day one has always been to change the mindset around the construction industry. No more where we let the 3%. Welcome back, Construction Champions. It's your facilitator, Ron Nussbaum, and I'm here to bring you another amazing episode where we bring on amazing guests and we have conversations around what it takes to be a champion in the construction industry and how you can do that today and go change the mindset around the entire industry. And today is no different. Seth, it is fantastic to have you here with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me, Ron. I greatly appreciate it.
Awesome, man. Well, I'm excited, but before we dive into it, why don't you introduce yourself to all the construction champions out there listening?
Yeah, so my name's Seth Fryer. I'm with Seppinen Contracting. We're out of a small town in Hayti, South Dakota. If nobody's ever heard of that, I can about imagine. It's a town of 375 people. The company was founded in 1990, actually. It's went through a few changes in its time. It started residential concrete, and from residential concrete, it went in 2011 to full general contracting. And what that looked like was primarily agriculture shops, farm facilities, things like that, some warehouses, stuff like that, mainly steel frame buildings and a few post frame type style buildings. And then just recently here in 2024, the now owner purchased the company from his father. And so he kind of took the reins, and I jumped on the crew about 8 months ago in business development, just kind of helping push his vision on to where he wanted it to go. And what that looks like now is that we're anywhere from commercial, agriculture, and residential general contracting. We self-perform concrete and erection. Traditionally, residential side is a lot primarily general contracting. Our crews just don't have the abilities to frame quite yet. Looking at pushing that forward as we go, but that's kind of the nuts and the bolts of where we're at right now.
Awesome, man. Well, this is going to be a great conversation. Always love to talk to people that are right out in the thick of it right now. So I'm going to dive right in there, and I'm going to ask you the $1 million question, and that is, what makes a construction champion?
That's a great question. And I think the answer to that question, Ron, is that it truly is a service-based industry, right? And I believe that providing and working with your customers makes you that champion. I think really being able to take your time and dive in and help your customers, because no matter what you're doing, whether it be from, a commercial style multi-use building to a custom home or even an agriculture shop. I mean, you think about an agriculture shop, and yeah, it might be 4 doors, 2 windows, and a walk door, but what are they using that building for? And I think that truly diving in and filling the needs of those customers rather than just having them, write you a check and get a building up. I think, I think is really what defines that. I think it's getting in there and sitting down with them, figuring out the needs, the wants, and deciphering that all within a budget, and not being there just to say, if you have an $800,000 budget, we're going to charge you $800,000. It's that integrity to say, yeah, you have this budget, so we can't do that, but we could do this. I think it's that. I truly do. I think it's taking the time to work with your customers, treating them, it's a big investment, whatever they're building, and helping them decipher what that is and how to get there.
Yeah, when you're dealing with customers, it adds another variable into it. And it starts to come down to, how are you willing to do that? And we see the guys that have high integrity, they don't have nearly the amount of customer issues as people that are, not that they don't have integrity, but I get the better word would be clarity. They aren't providing clarity with their customers, and stuff goes sideways and there's confusion and stuff changes. Even on a simple project, the expectations in a customer's head compared to what actually is happening, we have to be able to say, like, this is what's going to happen, how it's going to happen, and what it would look like. And I always say, especially when we start talking about customers, is like, this is very exciting for them. Like, and it's probably the first time they've ever done it. They get lost in the excitement. Like, they're seeing rainbows and sunshine, and we're looking at like, okay, let's get this deal closed, but and we're not providing any clarity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You are 100% right. We see that all the time, as I always like to say, especially to like our sales staff, there's that disconnect between sales, and especially in the world of construction, between sales and the crew in the field even, because you're treating them like a customer as well. And so there's this communication line of, most of these things could have been fixed with a 5-minute conversation, whether it even be with the crew or the customer. It was a 5-minute conversation that did not happen somewhere, that's now this big deal. And quite frankly, it could be a massive check to somebody. A large dollar amount could come out of something that just didn't, quite frankly, get talked about for 5 minutes in a situation.
Yeah.
And so it truly is.
Yeah. And you bring up a great point that is way underestimated and we don't talk about enough, is that relationship between the sales side and the production side of things, and how you can't have a disconnect there. But a lot of times we really silo those two departments, and we're like, it's like two different businesses, let them do their things. But it hurts both sides if we don't open up those lines of communication between the two.
It's very true. It's very true. Yeah, and it's so crucial, and because of the fact that and it's always that funny part too, because right, they look at the sales guy that's in the office wearing the clean fancy shirt, and they're out working for a living, you know, and so to create that common goal of, we're here to make sure your job runs smoothly out there, is really what we're here for. We're not here to throw it. So if it's not working, we need to know, so we're not selling it that way. You know what I mean? And it goes back to the same with the customer of, the end product is, well, that door's not in the right spot. Well, I'm sorry, at design time, that door got put there and I don't know where it fell off, but now it's inefficient. It doesn't work. And so now we're ripping a wall out and switching the door around. And so it's the same concept, because now not only are you sending your crew back, they worked hard to get that door there. Now they're going back to tear that all out and move a door. And so it's this whole thing of maintaining that we as an office staff are your support team for this entire company, and that everything we do here isn't based to make my life better. It's to make yours better, whether it be we're selling more, so you're working more, whether it be the inefficiencies in the field, that you're not getting the plans that you need to build. It's those things that you need to reiterate to your guys, that like, we're here to support you and to help you. So if you don't tell me it's broken, I don't know it's broken. I don't spend any time out there, so I need to know it's broken.
Yeah,
And it's the same aspect with customers.
yeah, you have to have open lines. I always look at it as, top line is created in the sales department, and what you take home is created in the operations side of things. But those two cannot be on different pages, because what I found building both operation side and sales teams, like, the sales team can sell a lot better with the having the educational piece that the operations side understands.
your operations side can do their job a lot more effectively if they understand the sales side of things. Like, we try to keep them separate because it's two completely different kind of people. Like, a great sales rep and a great project manager are just built different. That's fine. That is just how it is. But the thing is like, when they come together and they start having conversations, and some of those skills, it transfers over. They look at things a little bit different. The sales guys go from not just creating revenue, but to creating profit. And the same thing with your operations guys is they start to learn some different things. They can actually start adding revenue, not just profit, to the projects. And it's just because we allowed them to talk. And it's not even allowed. Like, we created an environment where it could happen, because
Yes.
most places don't have that environment.
Absolutely. That is so true. They don't promote it's probably that they don't promote it. You know what I mean? Like, they just run it and they let it go. And you know, and coming from my standpoint in that is that, so I came to this company 8 months ago. This company before me was primarily family ran, owned, operated. The three main players in the office were brother, and mom, well, four, and dad. And so here I am coming in as a strange face, and the crews have been here forever, so they know. But I'm coming in, starting to make changes, make suggestions for changes. And all of a sudden it's like, whoa, wait a second. We got this new fancy office guy that's pointing fingers around. And I didn't do it in an undiplomatic fashion. I just made small, subtle suggestions, and they were very taken very well. But the idea is that this thing was happening, and the crews kind of got left behind, right? They didn't understand why is he here now? What is he doing now that we weren't? Why do we need him? Probably for the lack of a better term. Everything was moving just fine. We were okay, but and then expressing that bigger picture and giving them guys the opportunity to promote that, to talk to me and our new project management, and say, hey, we're now here to give you maybe some things that you didn't have before, some tools that maybe you didn't have access to, some resources that you might need, things like that. We're here for that, because when it's great when you start a business and run one like that, but when you're expanding, you run out of people to be able to help people, you know? And really, construction really based, in my opinion, Ron, is based purely around helping people. You're always helping somebody, whether it's them designing their forever home, their retirement home. You're helping them. They just had a disaster. Their roof got ripped off in a storm. You're there, emergency, helping them get a roof over their head. And that shouldn't stop at a profit level. That should continue to your employees and say, we're here to help you get those resources. So in a transition phase, you definitely want to start promoting that, because the visions change, right? The visions were there, and the visions got us here. But we need to know now, what's the new vision and how do we get there, and what do we add to get there? Whether it's a new shiny office guy or it's another guy out there slinging mud, like, it's somebody, and why did we add him? And you need to promote that exact conversations of, this is what we do and how we've done it. There might be another thing on the backside of that of, we have this option now, let's try that. And so promoting that conversation, it trickles all the way down from the top to the bottom, and from the bottom on up. It truly does. It works its way right back up. If you promote it at the top level, it works down, and it makes them comfortable.
Absolutely. And you bring on, you're going into a fascinating thing. And since we have you here having this conversation, we have a lot of listeners that they might be looking at bringing somebody in, kind of disrupting their flow and everything. You've just been through that. It's coming into this company here recently. What would be your recommendations to them? Like, what are the blind spots and the things that they should be paying attention to as they bring somebody in that's going to help take their company to the next level?
I would say that the one thing would be, for us, is that I came on, and when I came on, my job really wasn't to be that disruptor. That's probably me, as my nature. I'm a very big questioner. But what I would recommend is ensure that that vision is down, the vision for where you're going and the why. Because if that's not distributed to the entire team, it causes a little bit of, I don't want to say pushback, but a little bit of negativity around it. Like, be open before you do it. So before that comes, get that vision on paper, present that vision to the whole team, because it is a little bit of a scarcity mindset, that people get of, well, the old saying of, we've always done it that way. I can't stand that saying. I'll be quite frank about it. I can't stand it. But I would say that would be my biggest thing, is that ensure that vision gets on paper, and be open-minded, because where is that person coming from? What's their background, and what knowledge do they have? And I'm not saying you have to take everything that they come in and tell you that, we should do this. I came on and I had 17 different why should we do this situations. And I think I got 7 of them, which is a win. It's great. The other 10 didn't work. They weren't fitted for where we were at right now. Not saying that down the road they're an option. They probably are, but I would say that, and the kicker to that, the other side to that, Ron, is being that person. Be willing to be told no, number one, and don't get discouraged when you do, because it's okay. You're not, you aren't here to try to fix everything, but you might be able to fix something, and that's okay. And it really depends on where the company is too. Where are they at? Both financially, their workload, what are they willing to do? What are their capabilities? Where can they go? And so maybe taking a little time as the person coming in to sit back. I had the luxury of that I worked with this company in a different capacity before I came here. So I worked at a lumber yard before this. So I knew the company and kind of their capabilities and their trajectory. So I had a little bit of an in coming in. But if you don't, take a little time, kind of watch from the background, train in, do your thing, and then maybe learn what you could and couldn't fill in,
Yeah, no, I absolutely, I agree with that. And being another person that absolutely hates the saying, this is how we've always done it. That's a lead in to get a question from me, as in, please explain why. Like, that's all I want to know. Like, does it make sense or does it not? Like, because we're in an industry where that term is just slung around willy-nilly, because people don't want to think about, should it change? It's just, oh, this is just how we've always done it. Explain to me why, and is there an alternative? I'm a disruptor in that way. Like, I don't like stuff being done just because this is how we always do it. I like stuff being done because this is what works best for everybody on the team and our clients. Like, that is why we should be doing stuff, not because 10 years ago somebody in the field made the decision, this is how we're going to do it.
So true. And, in this industry, as well as I do, Ron, that it's ever changing. The tools that come out, for the field, the processes as far as office goes, project management tools, estimating tools, all of that is changing daily, and to have that ability, yes, you can always fall back on that foundation, right? That's why I reiterated coming into this company is you have a foundation. We know what works here. If we stick our head out and we try it, that's okay. We tried it. It didn't work. We know we can fall back. It can be a little experimental. You don't have to commit to it. You can experiment it, try it. Now if it's something massive, it's a little different. It takes some time. But if there's little things you can do or new markets you can attack, and you can try it slow, but you always know where you were, and you can go back there tomorrow, and it's not going to hurt anything. It's not going to stop anything, but you tried it, and that's the mindset of, I think that also going back to the original question, right? Of what's a construction champion, and a construction champion is that of being able to be adaptable, because you have to be in this industry or else you're stuck. I mean, it works for the guys that are stuck, that want to be. That's completely fine. You need your small time guys, but you also need your big players, and your big players didn't get there by laying on the statement, we always have done it that way. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, being stuck, being just in that position it's just not a great place to be. And when you talk about adaptability, it does blow my mind a lot of times, because we have to be very adaptive just because of what we do. Like construction in itself, there's stuff always changing. You have to be adaptive. You have to be able to figure things out. We're just generally builders, and we like to fix problems. But then at the same time, when we look at this side of the business, we have a completely different mindset than we would. And like, we just have to look at, like you said, you used the word, we have this solid foundation. Like, building this business is no different than building a house or building a skyscraper. Like, you just have to start at the foundation and continue to build up, and you're going to have to adapt, and things are going to change. And every time you go up a floor, like, stuff has to change because you're getting higher, and like, that's just the natural evolution of building something. But we have a really hard time of applying that to the business side of the business. But on a project, we are more than willing to think outside the box and do things differently to get it done and to make it work.
So true. That is so true. It is. It's the idea, and I think a lot of it probably tends to be, because we've done a self implementation of the EOS system here, and so I think part of it is that you look at like our leadership team, and the core premise of our leadership team spent so many years working in it and not on it, and so the understanding of, yes, we changed this on a job. The window size changed, but what was that? That was revenue coming in, right? Because we're making the money. The money was instant. We knew that somebody out there was swinging a hammer and making that money. Where when it comes to somebody like, me, for instance, on my end of it, I'm out talking with potential customers and things like that, and mine isn't for the lack of a better term, instant revenue stream. And so I think some of that is that a lot of you see it in the construction world, that a lot of these guys, they built these massive, great companies, but they did it by swinging a hammer. And then they moved in the office, but their mindset needed a little twist of, there's things you have to do on this side they build for the future, not for right now. And so I think that has a lot to do with it. And that would go back to the idea that somebody coming in to a company like me, and if you had an owner that was bringing in a business development guy, that idea of let him do that. He's probably got experience. He or she, they probably have that experience. Let them do that, because their skill set's a little bit different most of the time. They're probably more of an outgoing people person. They're going to go out and talk. They're going to find it, but it's not going to happen tomorrow. You might have a guy that's a absolute killer out there, and he might come back with a $17 million deal. It might happen. But if you've been in construction for any sort of time, you know that, especially the larger the number, the longer it's going to take to secure a project. It does. It just takes time, and that's okay. And that's just part of it.
Yeah, it 100% is. And I remember when we started dabbling in the commercial realm of things, and we looked at it from the perspective of, we knew what is going to be our front loaded cost. Like, we're going to have to hire somebody and pay them for a few years before we see any significant where like this becomes a thing that we're significant in at all. Like we evaluated that. We understood this is an outlying cost. There's going to be an investment and our return will be long term. But once we start to cash in on that return, it's not a one-time deal because we made this investment and then the relationships have been built. Then you're just the phone call. And like that's the thought process around this stuff as you build out new lines of business is a lot of times they're not going to just be quick hits. It's just like when you're building your business, like it wasn't a success overnight. It was a lot of small wins and a lot of work that ended up creating what it is today. Do you have an advantage because you created that? Yes. But when you're moving into different sectors, you don't have the reputation in that sector. You don't have the connections. You don't have the relationships that are required. And construction is a very relationship driven business. So you have to be willing to evaluate that and understand like this is good. This is just going to be the burn for 2-3 years. Like most of the time, as you start to go down that road of moving into a bigger sector, a bigger market, it's just not going to come overnight. And you have to do that math before you start going down that road. Because if you just jump in and think, oh, this would be like everything else, it'll just be, man, 6 months from now, we'll be the king of this. That's not typically how it works. Even if you got a killer, like it really is building these relationships that a lot of them in a lot of these realms, like people have decade-long relationships. And to get on that level and be in that where you're the person they call or you're told beforehand to start preparing because this is what's coming down the pipeline. It's all relationships.
Absolutely, it is. And you said a great thing too, investment. That's, a lot of people look at it's a cost, not an investment. And so that is a very key role in that whole picture is you have to look at it as you're investing. And you are exactly right. What's your potential return on the investment, right? I mean, is it hard to put a number to it? Yeah. And for us, it was because for us, I mean, we're in a town of 370 people. We have big markets out and in there, but those, to your point, those markets were established relationships for 10, 12, 15 years. They've, and even longer. And so here we are as a new player in the game, and we're trying to we're building those when we're taking the steps to build those. And so giving that understanding that it is going to take some time because you now have went from a company. I mean, you look at our company started with 3 guys in a single cab pickup, and we rented every tool we needed. We didn't even own a tool when it started. And now we're here. And so it got us here, but it was also, we made those relationships to get here. How do we make those relationships to get where we want to go? What's the 10-year picture? And what do we do to get to the 10-year picture? Everywhere in between that picture. And so it's the investment term is the right term for that situation. You need to look at it as you're investing in something bigger. And it all goes back, like I said, Ron, it really truly goes back to the vision. What is the vision? What did you put on paper? What's your goal? Where do you want this thing to go? Do you want it to stay at 4 to 5 custom homes a year, or do you want it to be building skyscrapers in New York? And so what is your picture? And where are you at now? And what does it take to get there? And that truly, it's scary, and we in the construction industry rely a lot on different variables in that. And so whatever's going on affecting those, we have to play to the strengths and try to help out the best we can. But again, it goes back to being adaptable, and we have to adapt to it.
Yeah, I love the 10-year vision. For all of our listeners, you listen all the time. You already know EOS. It's Traction is the book around that. Gino Wickman, it's his operational system. I mean, I love it. I believe, there's lots of different operational systems out there. You have to find what works for you. I think traction works pretty amazing. I've seen it have high success, and you can put a number on this stuff. I mean, for us, it was tens of millions of dollars in revenue a year. So we knew what if we spent $1 million over the next 3 years, to be able to start to unlock that, it was going to be worth every penny of it, because we understood what those contracts looked like. And I like clarity and clear vision. So like I'll research stuff and get the data to understand it. And then it we do look at like everything as an expense. I know the accountants and bookkeepers are going to say, well, that's where this stuff falls, but the mindset around it is truly, it's just like marketing is an investment. Like anybody, like when you're marketing, it's an investment in long-term stable leads, the growth, the thought process around the company. Uh, that stuff truly is an investment. Like it long term would pay a lot more dividends than what you end up paying to get it done now. And that is a mindset that we have to shift around this stuff when we start talking business development and going out and exploring different markets. Is it's not a cost, because a cost is money you spend that would never have a return on it.
Mm-hmm.
When you're spending money that is eventually going to produce a return, that's an investment. And that is how we have to look at it.
It's 1,000% right. And it's dependent, right? It's dependent on the market, and it's dependent on your location in the world and what it is you're chasing. You look at like us in a town of 375 people and in a community that's very small in its surroundings. We took a leap that no construction companies have taken in our neck of the woods. We have business development. We've done marketing. Like there's not, our competitors aren't doing it. I do, it's a thing, but in our part of the world, it was new, and it still is very much. I mean, I know that I was meeting with some of the contractors that I knew, from my past, and they're like, wow, you guys are just doing some weird things. And I'm like, we're really not weird. And they're like, well, they're weird. And I was like, why? And they go, what's business development even mean? And I was like, oh man. And so it's that idea that, it is new to some markets in some parts of the world where that's things that you don't do. You just kind of rely on the word of mouth, and you've done it, and people just come to you and they keep their pipelines full. But, once you plateau, that's where you guys start asking yourself exactly on those. How do we gauge those numbers, and are we scoring them, and are we working to get up again? Because staying here, you'd be fine with, but if you're figuring out how to get here, then you need to definitely start tracking some numbers and figuring out where you want to go and how you're going to get there. And it might not be it might take a little thinking outside the box to get there. It might take a switch in what you're doing. It might be, if you're in commercial, maybe you're now going to do some residential because the markets fluctuate. Maybe I don't know, whatever it looks like for you, but it's the ability to, once you start looking at those numbers, is when you can decipher, build your plan from those, but you need to figure out those measurables and what you want to measure, and then go from there. And before me, we're not doing that here. To be quite frank with you, Ron, we were tracking sales leads on marker boards here. Our CRM was a marker board in an office. And so it was like, whoa, okay, we can do some different things here. We can implement some stuff to make things move a little bit different, because we were bringing a salesman on at one point, and so that's just where we were at. And yeah, so I mean, it's just, where do you want to go and how do you want to get there? It is exactly that.
Awesome, man. I have loved it. This has been a fantastic conversation today. For all the listeners out there listening, if they wanted to connect with you, learn more about you, where's the best places for them to do that?
Yeah, so you can reach right out to us. We got on our website, SeppinenContractingInc.com. Facebook, we're active on Facebook, Seppinen Contracting Inc. If you want to reach out to me, if you have any questions, for me, you can get me on LinkedIn, Seth Fryer, Fryer. But yeah, go ahead, reach out on any of those platforms. It'll go directly to me, and we'd be happy to share with you what we're doing or some insights on what we've done or where we're going. So definitely open to that. And I appreciate you taking the time to chat with me today, Ron.
Absolutely. And thank you for taking the time and being on the show today.
Yes, sir. Thanks.
Awesome. All right, construction champions, another episode in the bag where, you got to have clarity on the vision. It seems like a simple thing to say, but if you truly turned your truck off right now, looked in that rearview mirror and said, what is my vision for this company? Where are we headed? Could you clearly articulate that in a way that you could walk up to a random person and say that and they would know what you're talking about? Or just yourself? And chances, like, can you even do that? Like, these seem like simple questions, but these are the questions that we have to ask ourselves. And then when we have clarity around that vision, the next step is to invest in that vision. We spent a lot of time talking about the investment versus the cost in this perspective on this, how we look at things in construction. And when you look at how a lot of big businesses operate, is they look at stuff in different buckets. You have stuff that produces revenue, you have just stuff that's direct costs, and then you have investments. You have stuff that's forward looking, that is kind of, research and development, where we are making an investment into the future of the business, whether that's products, whether that's our services, whether it's our market trajectories. You're not just burning money, because long term that's the stuff that would pay dividends and pay a lot more than what that investment is. So don't be afraid to start to calculate that. And you can start to look at what the math is to what it takes to bring somebody on, give them the resources. I'm going to say something that, like, bringing somebody like Seth into your business is just the start. Because what I watch companies do, and what I've done for a few months before realizing it, is you can't just bring somebody on to go do this stuff and then not give them the resources, which is like spend like money to go do this stuff. Like, it goes beyond just what it costs to have that person there. You have to calculate that into the investment of what that is, because you can't take a great person and then handcuff them and say, oh, hey, well, hey, we brought you in, but there's no resources for you to be able to go out and do lunch and learns, bring people donuts, do all this stuff, take people out to dinner. I mean, this is a relationship business. You have to look at it from that perspective as well. And it's all an investment into the future of your company. And I know you probably want to be the one out whining and dining people as the owner, but that's not your role. So get out of it. Like, for the business to grow, you can't be the one out whining and dining everybody forever. That has to change. So, construction champions, until next time, be the champion you were meant to be.